Well, looks like I'm gonna have to move out of here to find a new place. I can't pay 3 months' rent this fast.
Well, here we are. After a decade of years that ranged from just okay to the worst years I've ever lived through, at the end of 2023, I said that this year would be the last year that I ever did one of these videos. So, how was 2024? Well, what can I say? 2024 was good enough. 2024 was certainly a year to remember. It wasn't perfect, I wouldn't even say it was great, but it was good enough that I feel it is a good stopping point. I started doing this in 2018 after one of the hardest times of my life, and I think I finally dug myself out of the hole that year put me in. In terms of my personal life, it was mostly fine. I did have some foot pain off and on, but usually wasn't too bad. I did have some major back pain in the last week of March. In fact, late March through April, I was always in some kind of pain. It went from back pain, to stomach pain, to arm pain, to throat pain, to financial pain after I had to pay $1,000 to have my car pass inspection. That car better last me another 5 years at least. In fact, financial decisions were probably the worst thing about this year. I made a lot of bad money decisions in the first half of the year that really came back to bite me in the second half. There were entire weeks where my account was hovering near $0. And let me tell you, that caused some anxiety, but I have been building it back up in the last few months, and I'm pretty stable now. And that's pretty much about it. There was 1 week where I had to walk to work because my car started making the bad sound again, but when I finally took it in, turns out it was just some rusty dust shield. They had to put it back, and then ended up costing me $50, and that was with an oil change. I think that about sums it up. A decent year with some really bad weeks. But of course, we can't get through a presidential election year without something terrible happening, and once again, just like 2016, the terrible thing that happened was the presidential election that ended with the exact same outcome. You know, I thought this was going to be the most boring election of my lifetime. Basically just a repeat from 2020, except they're both older and slower. But when one of the candidates gets shot and the other one drops out and lets his VP take over, I can safely say this is probably the most exciting presidential election of my lifetime. But of course, it ended with Donald Trump, one of the worst presidents we've ever had, getting reelected. In the weeks since, I've seen people cry, get angry, get scared, but I haven't seen much giving up. So here's my optimistic opinion. If you don't want to hear it, then just turn off the video. I don't think Trump will be as bad as we're all thinking. Oh, don't get me wrong. It's gonna suck. But remember, he's very lazy, incompetent, and dumb, so maybe he'll just play golf and watch TV the whole time. And a lot of the things he says he wants to do are not possible, like deporting 30 million people. At least in the 4 years until he eventually is kicked out. And to all the little freaks who would think because of him that culture war stuff is going to end, no. Gay and trans people aren't going anywhere, and women and minorities are going to appear in TV shows and movies. So get over it. But here's something I absolutely will not tolerate, and that's people saying that we won't have elections in 2026 and 2028. We will, and despite voting for Trump, a lot of states voted for stuff he stands against, like LGBTQ rights, abortion rights, and wage increases. Since it appears that people vote for Trump but vote against people who talk like him and against things he says he wants to do, I think we can all make the assumption that people like Trump but hate everything he stands for. And that's because, in the end, Donald Trump is not a politician. He's a cult leader. I went to a shop in Jersey where you can get stuff printed on shirts, and there I saw this, where Trump being a cunt are in the same category as Taylor Swift and Bad Bunny. Donald Trump is a cult leader. But hopefully, when he's gone, this whole fucking MAGA mentality will die. Well, anyway, besides the election, the rest of the world was mostly fine, outside of the mass shootings, natural disasters, and stuff happening in Ukraine and Gaza. And of course, losing all these people, but again, that's just gonna happen every year. But now we can move on to the good, and I could actually think of a few really good things that happened to me this year. I went on a really nice vacation, we got a new manager at work that has just made the place so much more lively. I went to another cousin's wedding, 3rd year in a row, and guess what? Next year I have 2, unless something terrible happens. Me and my mom went to a Def Leppard concert featuring Journey and the Steve Miller Band. I got a sofa. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Doing reviews was fun, and I was overall been a lot less stressed the last few months. But of course, we have to talk about the 3 New Year's resolutions. First, get a new job. No, that didn't happen. Though, like I said, the new manager has made the place a more enjoyable place to work, although we have a lot more meetings now. Will I look for a new job next year? Probably, but it'll have to be something I, really, really want to do. Get to 38 inches? Does it look like I lost 6 inches? Yeah, the weight loss went really bad this year, which is a real shame since it went well every other presidential election year since 2012. Once again, I gave up on doing the weigh-ins about halfway through. I will do one on the 31st, and I'm hoping to at least be 300. And I am definitely going to be cutting down on my sugar intake through at least the first few months of 2025. And finally, pay off student loans. And well, if you saw that video, you know that I actually did accomplish this one. And in the last few months have been slowly but surely building back up my bank account. Though it's gonna take me a while to buy some stuff I really want, like a new editing computer. And that alone gives me the right to give 2024 the Good Year Award. I said to myself way back in 2016 that whatever year I pay off my student loans gets a pass. So yeah, 2024, good job. Except for that one thing. If you had a bad year, I'm sorry. And I really hope 2025 is good for you. For me, I'd say 2024 was good enough that I'm really looking forward to next year. And that's it. Like I said, this is the last one of these I'll do. I may give little updates in final videos in the coming years, but till then, this is it. And looking over the past 10 years, it really is amazing how much both me and the world have overcome. There's no use denying it. The last decade has been undeniably traumatizing. For me personally, I can't drive in the rain at night. Every time I hear even the slightest weird noise when I'm driving, I start to have a panic attack. I wake up every day fearing getting up and noticing my foot hurts, thus putting me out of commission for a few days. I'm scared to check my bank account and worry that doing one wrong thing will get me fired and send me back living on my parents' couch. But it's not just me, we've all been through a lot. We've had to deal with multiple mass shootings and terrorist attacks, numerous natural disasters, terrifying politicians who either do nothing or actively want to take our rights away, several wars, a global pandemic, and just so much division and hate. And I'm sure we'll have more hardships for years to come. But it's worth looking back and remembering all the good that's happened. From gay marriage being legalized in many countries, efforts to stop climate change, people demanding better working conditions, cures for diseases, advances in science, many firsts in racial and women's rights, and times we've come together. I've said it before, it's not that bad all the time. And it's worth remembering that when things get bleak. Wow. You handled that pretty well. Thanks. So, are you sure that future version of me isn't, Dark Shadow? Nope. I got him under 24-hour surveillance. He's locked in your subconscious. Still not sure how that works, but guess 2025's looking fun. Thanks for helping me out. No problem. And I'll always be here if you need me. Thank you for joining me for my decade-long quarter-life crisis. And that's all I got. See y'all tomorrow for my worst of the year. Bye.